Hello, Mike.
Great start. Okay, so what are we doing here today?
So I think we're trying to work through a user story and use the BDD, or like behavior-driven development, something similar to that, where we're gonna write a feature test. We're not gonna do like Cucumber or any of that, but write a feature test and then use that to kind of drive out the kind of work from like the front end to the back end, and then eventually get to a point where we're consuming like APIs within the context of a Rails application. Okay. Anything else that like we want to kind of discuss or like introduce?
I guess we're going to be using the ProPublica API, and we're grabbing. I think the big picture is that ProPublica API gives us information about our legislators, and the user story in general is that we're going to have a drop-down box of all the states in the United States of America, and when we select a state and we click a button, it's going to give us our legislators. I think the one was Congress from.
I think it's like the members of the House for the particular state, specific state. Yeah. So should we take a look at the user story first?
Yeah, let's
and kind
do
of
that.
like
So let's
wrap our heads around what we're doing.
So this is the user story we'll be using. As a user, when I visit / or the root path, and I select Colorado from the dropdown, and I click on Locate Members from the House, then my path should be /search with state CO in the parameters, and I should see message 7 results, list of the 7 members of the House of Colorado, and they should be ordered by seniority from most to least. Most to least. And see name, role, party, and district for each member.
Cool. All right, so how do you want to start? Do you want to start by like maybe taking the user story and pulling it into like a feature test?
Maybe we could so we have a Rails app here.
Yeah.
Already. Would you mind talking about like how this is currently set up?
Oh, totally. Yeah, great point. Yeah, so we have just like some basic stuff. You want to open up the routes.rb file. We really only have one route currently set up, which is like the welcome page. So if we start the Rails application, we'll see that we have like a page that's accessible, and all it really is just like a nav bar. And what we're going to try to do is like insert a drop down into that nav bar, click search, or we'll click a button, and then we'll kind of be taken to a page that'll show a list of all of the members of the House. Right now we have it set up to use RSpec for the test suite, so that's what we're going to kind of continue with here. But other than that, it's like a really simple application. There's no like migrations that have been created yet. We're actually not even going to touch the database really today. Any other like thoughts that you have?
Not really. I think that any kind of question that people may have will be answered as we go through.
Cool. So let's. What do you think about creating like a features directory and then writing instead of spec? Yeah.
Features, and I guess what do we want to call the test file?
I'm so bad at naming things.
Well, let's take a look at the thing. All right, so we're gonna name the spec. I think you're like the actor, like the person that acts, and what they're doing, the action.
Yeah, so maybe something like visitor searches for representatives or something like that. Spec.
For representatives spec.rb. Cool. Okay, so we'll start this file off with a require Rails helper, and we're using a feature.
Maybe something like just like I usually keep this like similar to what the file name is.
So visitor searches for representative do, and we're gonna use scenario. And what do we want to put as our scenario?
Maybe something like visitor searches for representative with valid state.
With valid state. Cool. So, how I think that maybe a good thing to do would be to go back to the user story and copy and paste that and kind of make a comment so it's like right there in front of our faces.
Yeah.
So we're sure of the direction that we're always headed in.
I really like that. Yeah.
So let's copy that. Ooh. I'm going first. Let's make this a comment. And for these lines, actually. Cool. So maybe let's tack it line by line.
Yeah, let's do it. I like it.
So as a user, well, I don't think we need to do anything for that.
Yeah, I think you're good.
So when I visit,
You just do visit, visit slash.
check, select column from the drop down.
Yeah, so now we got to figure out. Okay, so maybe it's like, I think it's just select is the method name that we would use in,
Mm-hmm.
and then we would do, I think, the string of Colorado, and then we'll do comma from colon, and then we have to give it the name of like whatever. Let's try state. I'm thinking like we'll have like a box that'll be named like state or something like that.
Would it be named state or states?
It's a good question. I think because the dropdown will only select one and send it over.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably going to be state, but we can always adjust that.
Yeah, we can change it. I guess like what makes sense to us that we want to name it, because I think that like as we write our tests, we should make decisions on
Sure.
what we would like things to be.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Like the one thing that I'm not sure about is like if we go singular here,
Mhm.
or if we go plural. Let's say we say select the dropdown or select Colorado from states. Will it then be called states on the Rail side for the params that get submitted? So I want to make sure that when it gets through on that end that it's singular. So I don't have a strong preference in terms of.
Well, I think that's probably the safer thing to do.
And then I think we're going to need to do it as like a symbol or a string. Yeah. And then we could do like click on underneath the next line there.
Click on
And then
locate.
And I think we might do. Is from the house make sense or of the house?
I'm not a governmental expert. I think like that's what's in our story. We should probably leave that as
that's fine.
It'll
Cool.
match, and if we need to change it, I think that's
sounds
relatively
good.
small.
Cool.
Change it.
Cool. So then maybe we'll write an expectation around our path.
Expect path to equal search.
Yeah.
With state CO and parameters.
Yeah. So that's an interesting thing. I think there's current URL which will have the entire like parameters. I think it's current URL. We could always do a Google search if we get this wrong, but we could do something like where we expect current URL to include state equal CO. So maybe keep the line that we had there, the expect path, or is it current path? I think it's current path.
Current path.
Yeah. And then maybe write another line where it's like expect current URL to include maybe
in this
string of state equal CO. Something like that. And if we got that wrong, we can always go back and tweak it.
Cool. And expect the message 7 results.
So maybe we expect page to have contents.
Page. And I want to point out that in case you're watching this video from far in the future, right now in 2018, Colorado has 7 members of Congress. I mean, 2020 is coming up.
That's true. Yeah.
And so we should see a list of the 7 members of the House for Colorado.
Yeah, these are interesting. What are you thinking?
I mean, so here, I guess a couple ideas, like maybe we're getting slightly ahead, but like I think, is there like is there, can we, how do we, I guess my line of things like how do we verify there's 7?
Yeah.
In a very generic way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because like one of the things that I worry about when writing tests, especially at the feature layer where it's consuming data coming from some other place, is that if the data source changes, right? Like we don't want our tests to be breaking every time. And so like we could do something like stub out the data, which I think would be like a preferred way. But since this is our like first time that we're kind of showing how to do this, let's do it like a more simple way. One of the things I like to do that's kind of simple is to just count CSS classes. So like maybe we could count that, make sure that there's like 7 representative classes or something like that on the page.
And what will that assertion look like?
Yeah, so it'll be something like expect page to have CSS, I think. And then you can pass it, let's do a string of like dot representative. Sorry.
It's okay.
And then we can pass it another parameter of count. And then this will be like count colon 7.
Okay.
Yeah, so it'll like, I think that's the syntax. If we get it wrong again, we'll always look it up.
Yeah, because I think that like one thing I was, the exact thing you were saying is that we're using a stub to kind of like stub out that data.
Yeah.
But I think that if we're trying to make this as evergreen as possible, the fact that this is 7,
yeah,
and may or may not change every decade, as opposed to the actual names of whoever they are, which will most likely change every 2 years.
Yeah,
is probably like a good trade-off.
Yeah.
And I guess the seniority.
That's tricky to test at the feature layer. Let's just not worry about that right now.
And what about the name, role, party, and district for each member?
Yeah, so I was thinking we could probably do something similar to what we did on the line above with the representative. Like maybe we could do like, maybe we could say like within the first CSS class of representative that we expect that to have like a class of, we could basically give a CSS class for name, role, party, and district as well. And then we kind of avoid that, like making this like overly brittle test.
Yeah.
And still kind of captures like most of what we were trying to do. No, that said, like this wouldn't be a perfect test, right? Like it would. Yeah. We could get it to pass, and not have any info displaying, on the page possibly. But I think this is a good start to what we're trying to do and accomplish, and we can always make it more robust as a little later.
Yeah, I think that like it's. at this part, like we can kind of like figure out that, like it's we can get 7 things to display, and we start thinking about how to test it. Like seniority,
seniority maybe is like better to do at the unit layer. I'm thinking, versus like the feature layer. But so what do you think about adding one that's like within like the first representative? We could check to see if they have like a name, role, party, and district class. Seem good?
Okay.
Just like so that maybe we don't check every single representative on the page, but maybe we just check the first one to make sure that it checks out. So maybe let's try within. Within. And I forget. I think we're gonna pass within a parameter. I think first is the method, and then pass that a parameter of dot representative. Yeah. And then I think we can do like a do block after that, and then we would write a similar expectation as what's on line 5 or up 5 from where we're at, where it's expect page to have CSS, and then maybe we do like dot name as a string.
Oops. Dot name and then dot role dot party dot district.
Cool. And I think that's like, I feel like this isn't a perfect test by any means, but it'll at least catch if we write decent code at the view, which is a big assumption, like we should hopefully get where we want to be, get this one to pass, without bringing in stubs and all that. Maybe we can bring that in later.
Yep. I mean, maybe writing like additional tests.
Yeah.
Just kind of tighten these up, but I think that so let's start from the beginning and let's like kind of walk through again, make sure that we haven't
missed
anything, or like, got lost somewhere. When I visit /visit, check. Select call from drop down, check. Yep. Thankfully, like this DSL, this domain specific language, is really close to English, which makes it like essentially, this is this, sans the and I.
Yeah.
Content 7, have its 7 representatives, and to have name, role, party, and district for each member. Cool.
I like it. Yeah, I think this is good.
So let's.
Do you want to delete the comments? I'm not a fan.
What?
Do you like the? Or do you like them as kind of like a safe, like a check?
I think personally, I like to go in after we've made the test pass.
Cool. I'm good with that.
Right?
That's a good compromise.
Because I think that this part here.
Yeah.
Like I don't think we should delete these yet.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's fair. Cool.
All right. So let's run it.
Great. What are you expecting? I'm thinking there's probably some like. I don't know. I'm trying to think. What's our? We should be able to visit the root page. Because
I'm thinking like, well, we haven't written any code, but so we have
there's no drop down to select from. I don't think at this point.
Earlier we did check and see we did have a controller, so let's find out. Let's see find door number 1.
Yeah, that happens, huh? Programming. Read the errors, huh? Okay. Let's just keep adding ends until...
Let's see, that matches that one. Feature.
So we should have 3 ends at the bottom, right? Yeah.
Don't really miss. What is...
So we've got scenario that needs an end, feature that needs an end, and then the within that needs an end, I think.
So... Yeah,
oh, so that should all be indented.
Yeah.
Okay.
The indentation is what kind of...
Cool.
Oh. Make this a little bigger. Unable to find visible select box state that is not disabled.
Cool.
And unable to find visible info data list which state is not disabled.
Sweet. So it sounds like we have to go add the search box or this drop down to the layout. So I think this would be like the application html.erb file. Inside of our views. And let's go ahead and magically insert a form for searching.
Cool. So we have inserted into our application.html.erb in the nav bar this drop down. And we save the file. We're going to run the test again. See what happens. Undefined method search path.
Right, so we've added the first parameter that we pass to our form tag inside that view is search, which is automatically going to look for for where to submit this form. It's going to try to generate a route of like the search path. So that means we're going to have to go create that. And I think that's looking for a get request. So I think we should be able to do get. And then maybe just like do /search as a string, yeah. And we need to send this somewhere, and I'm thinking we send it to...
To?
Yeah, to, yeah. To colon...
Do we need a search controller?
Yes, we will. Yep. So like hashtag, yeah, or search. Hash.
Show.
Yeah, let's think about it because we're gonna display a list of representatives, right? So maybe index, yeah. And that should be as a string. And then 2 should have a symbol, and then a comma after the search. So get is the method, and the first parameter is, there we go. Cool.
All right, so hopefully that'll clobber that error message, and no button, click on locate members in the house.
Okay. So maybe that button was named something different?
Yeah.
Okay, members of the house. Which do you want to go with?
This is already open.
Okay.
So
that's fine with me. And that's what the user story said, so.
Yep. Uninitialized constant search controller.
Cool. Let's do it.
File. Cool. Oops.
Awesome.
No index action.
Creator act.
Yep.
Creator index.
Okay, so we have this. So I anticipate the next error is going to be the fact that it cannot find that message. I think.
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, the 7 results.
7 results. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Let's see. Oh, template. Missing template. Yeah, of course. So we got to go make our search directory and views.
Oops. In views. Third time's a charm. Wait, that's not a directory. New folder. Search. New file. Index.html. B. Cool. One more time with feeling.
Cool.
Okay.
That's awesome. So yeah, now we're to the point where we need to start writing some like code at the view layer to start to get this to pass. I think one thing that's interesting is like I'll frequently see students kind of like jump into trying to solve the most difficult problems, and then they kind of get lost in like all the possibilities of like all the things that need to be done. And one of the things I like to encourage is like to solve the problem that's immediately in front of you. And so if we're using like test-driven development, one of the nice things is that it like takes us like piece by piece, and we can slowly start to like fill in each thing. So the thing that we're missing here is like a count of the 7 results or whatever that we need to see. So I would start at the view layer and just write some code that we wish existed here.
7 results.
Yeah.
Done. I mean, but that's not really getting us what we want.
Yeah, well, let's see if we can get it to move past that error, and then if it does, then we can try to like maybe start to make it dynamic. Cool. Yep. So that does in fact do it. So how would we make that 7 dynamic? Now we need to start to think about maybe like how we're gonna want this to work. We're probably gonna want that like after we do the search, be able to call like search whatever we're searching for, call a count on it, right? What do you think of doing something like search.representatives.count or search.members.count or something like that?
Search.representatives.count. So I guess like my question is that do we need so we don't know how we're getting the data.
Correct.
Right. why do we need to send things that are not the representatives? Why can't we just send? Why can't just search be an array of the representatives?
It could. Yeah, we could do that. The one potential advantage is that, so if we look at the controller name that we have right now, we have like a search controller, right? And sometimes things like searches have like metadata that come along with them. So like maybe it's like paginated and you have like maybe you're on page 2 or something like that.
Yeah.
You might want to send that data over to the view somehow. In which case you wouldn't be able to send that inside of the array of representatives, but you could send it in as like part of the search itself. So I think it could lead to a little bit more maintainable code in this particular scenario. But generally speaking, I kind of agree with like not trying to solve problems that aren't problems yet. But I think because we have a search controller, that maybe we should send in a search object.
Yeah.
Seem good?
That does. Search object sounds more than reasonable. So let's say we have this, right?
Yeah. So maybe like at search. Do you like representatives or?
You know. So this is like my eternal struggle, is that representatives is long.
Reps.
And, reps, right?
You want to do reps?
Yeah, because I think that like.
Or we could do members, since it's going to be like members of the House.
Yeah, because I think representatives is. You can conflate that with something else, I think, easily.
Sure.
As well. Members dot count results.
Yeah, I like it. And this should totally blow up.
Oh, it's so gonna blow up.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, so now we start to get into like needing to send in a thing.
So we got lots of drawing the owl right here.
Yeah, you gotta draw the rest of the owl. So let's just do like at search. Let's do some dream driving here, like DDD, dream driven development. So like what's the code that we wish existed here?
Do we want to like? I'm just like kind of spitballing.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we have some object API contactor maybe that go get
stuff.
Go get stuff, and we're gonna pass in the state.
Yeah, I think at the end of I think that's like the general idea, right? Is like we're gonna take in. We're going to get the state, however we're getting that. I think it's probably in the params, right?
Yep.
We're going to send in the state, and then we're going to try to go get representatives, make an API call of some sort.
And then hopefully in that idea, I guess the idea is that this method will return us the search object that we want, or whatever we decide we want.
Yeah. So maybe we create, like, if we're sending a search object to the view, I like the idea of maybe trying to keep it consistent in terms of like the naming, like whether we call it search or something else.
So maybe something like that.
Let's see. Maybe we call it like member search, since we're searching for members specifically. That would like open up some opportunity to have other types of search in the application in the future. And maybe we leave it up to we could leave it up to the member search class to decide how it's going to go get the things.
Yeah. So we potentially do
just send in the state maybe. Yeah.
Like whatever that state may be.
Yeah.
I'm having trouble with member search because I understand that search here is a noun.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause it's kind of a result, but it's also a verb, and that gives me my mental.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Right.
So like member searcher or. Does that feel better for you?
I don't know. I guess like, do we want it to be a noun or do we want it to be a verb?
I think of it as if it's an object, I almost think of it more as a noun.
Yeah, same here. So it's like, in my mind,
Member searcher. Oh.
Right, because that's.
Oh, sure.
Right. That's what my mind is.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
I'm not.
Yeah, I'll go with that. That's cool. I'm good with it. Cool. And then we need to get access to the state.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably just params state.
Mm. So let's do. Well, let's make sure.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
We do a buy bug here.
I think there's pry. I think we have pry. Yeah.
Let's have a looky look. Rams.
State. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
All right. So in furtherance, I guess, of those, like, how would, like, so I guess our next step is create a member search result class.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens when we run our test right now, because that might tell us like, are we doing what we think we're doing? Just like kind of like a quick check.
Think.
Oh wait, we did actually. Okay, I didn't actually see that we have a failure there for uninitialized constant member search result. I missed that piece. Sorry.
Where? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Yeah, that my I guess that if we create that, the next error will be that if there is no members.
Yeah, and
so we need to start making that class.
Yeah, which tells me that maybe we should start writing unit tests.
Okay.
So we could kind of like we could put on hold the feature test that we're working on, and maybe move like a little bit more toward the unit level.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we create a new test for like member search results spec or something like that. Yeah. Probably write a unit test maybe for this member search results, and maybe create. So I guess we would need I don't think we have anything for this yet. So in our spec directory, what do you think of adding like a models directory for this?
So I guess, like maybe we should make clear and ask the question, like, so this, would we consider this a model?
Yeah, so not from the standard like active record standpoint, like it's not going to inherit from active record or anything like that. But I do kind of see it like representing or modeling the data that we get back from an API call. So I kind of like the idea of putting it in models, but I know some people don't love that.
What do those other people do?
Not entirely sure. I've seen like I think I've seen like different solutions. And so it's like some people create like a services directory and then create like subdirectories in there. But I think just for the sake of, this is our first time messing around with this, let's try to keep it easy.
Oh, not test. Let's see. Cool. Oh, really?
We could just do like maybe describe and then all caps, like do like the class name member search result. No string.
Oh.
You could just do like the object itself. Yeah.
Spec?
Nope, just
okay.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah.
Do.
And I guess we can just do a simple like test to get things wired together, like just check whether it exists, so like it exists or something like that. I don't know. And then that would be a string. Yeah.
Oops. I cannot type today. And we passed. So let's take a look at our search controller. And we expected to take a params to state. So
maybe we could just
CO.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah.
Expect.
We could do like to be a member
Search result.
Yeah. And this should be enough to kind of
Okay.
like get things wired together and kind of start moving forward
Cool.
with this.
So let us run it.
Cool, that's perfect. So now we'll have to go create that file.
Yep. Go up above here. Save file. Cool. Right, and then we'll run the test.
Cool. We should get like the expecting, or we got one argument given. Yeah, cool, perfect. So we'll do definitialize.
State.
Yeah, seems good to me. And that should satisfy that test.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, it didn't. What did we miss? Oh, okay. So so it actually moved past that, but now we're getting to the view, right? We wrote this
Yes,
section for like
yes.
members.
Members
So
count.
yeah, maybe we should do that at the unit level then next. Like we could start writing a test around that members. I wonder if how do you feel about like one of the things I've started doing is creating a context for class methods and instance methods, so they can kind of like live in, like we know where to go in the test file.
Okay.
Any preference around that?
Not really.
Okay.
Like like that is something like I've not really thought about. So I'm like more.
Okay.
I think that like let's see it. Let's
cool.
just try it out.
So then we would just wrap this in like context, and then just give it a context of instance methods. Cool. And then in here, yeah, we'll do. I guess we might want to set another context inside
For
of here.
class methods?
For the actual method that we're testing.
Mhm.
So inside of instance methods, we could do context, and then hashtag members. So I'll use like the hashtag for like pound symbol for that's weird that it did that.
Yeah.
For instance methods, and then a period in front of the method names for class methods.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So now we've got context members, and I guess we could do something like it returns members with a valid state or something like that.
Cool. So let's just. Okay. And then. I guess now this is like where we start making decisions. So it is the members method that will return. That, so I guess.
Yeah, so maybe we do like.
Let's maybe expect member search result about members. Did we say that was going to be plural? Yeah.
Yeah.
Members.
I guess like a simple test could be to like
Count
them. Yeah.
Members dot count to equal. I think we said 7.
Yeah, but we should. This is like we maybe should go start messing around with the API in order to like know whether this is a legit test or not.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that? Maybe go take a look at Postman. Or
Why
something?
wouldn't it be a legit test?
Well, like let's say we go and we make the real API call,
Mhm.
and it's possible that there's a different number there or something like that. Did we look at it? I don't think we've looked at it.
It was
yet.
7. Like I think.
Okay.
We agreed that it was 7 members.
Okay. Cool.
So I think that like we should go
Yeah.
look at if we were like testing that like the representative District 1 would
Oh,
be
right, because this
whatever.
was in the test, or in the story
Yep.
for the test. Got it. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. So, yeah, I think that's a good start. And then I think maybe like some other things we might do is like we might check that maybe grab the first member in that collection and see whether it's like a member object or something like that. But we could start here. I think this is probably a good place to start.
Cool. So, how do you want to start tearing through and like playing with the API?
Yeah.
Like, how much do we want to assume that we know?
I think we should assume that we've never done this before.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe we should run the test, get things wired together, and then we can start writing the code to get it to pass. Because we're going to still have an undefined method probably.
Yep.
Yeah. So now we can go define members.
Oops.
And that should get us to probably an undefined method count for nil class, because members should return nil.
Yep.
Cool. And this is probably a good point to start going and playing with the API a little bit. Because now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to start making HTTP requests from Ruby in order to like parse through this data, get the 7 objects or whatever. And one of the things I like to do before I even start messing around with something in Ruby is just come into Postman and then like read through the documentation for like the API. It kind of minimizes the number of places that things can go wrong, and we can just get like the successful API call. Once we figure that out, then we can take that over and start getting it to work in Ruby.
Cool.
So this is Postman. Postman is an app for sending HTTP requests, and it's really great for like experimenting with APIs, either like APIs that you're consuming from someone else, or even if you're building your own API. It can be nice to like troubleshoot things in here. You can send over parameters fairly easily and headers. And what's cool is it will like keep a history. If you look on the left-hand side here, it keeps a history of the API calls that you've made. So if you ever want to come back and look at them again in the future or try to remember how you did something, it's kind of nice. Before I guess we even start messing with Postman, we should probably pull up the documentation and see what we need to do from the ProPublica side of things. So here's the API endpoint that we're going to hit. Is this current members by state/district, and we're going to focus on state. I think the district is optional, so we're going to look for like the current members of the House for the state of Colorado. Do they have an example request in here, Mike?
For House, they don't.
But maybe for Senate?
For Senate, they do.
Let's start there and see if maybe we can like build off of it. It's yeah, there it is.
So they have an example call that is using curl.
Cool.
And curl is kind of, I guess, very simply put, a command line postman.
Yeah. Yeah, make a HTTP request from the terminal or from the command line. Cool. So maybe we should experiment with that, see if we can get this call to work with our real API key. So you'll need to sign up for an API key.
Oops.
So we just sent it with a fake, with the ProPublica API key in quotes, which isn't a legit key. So now the -H sets this as a thing in the header. Cool. So if you're doing this on your own, we're not going to expose our real API key here, but that ProPublica _API _key in all caps will need to be replaced with your real API key. All right, and there goes the call, and it looks like we're getting a JSON response back. Seems legit. Let's try the same call and swap out House instead of Senate. Cool, so we changed those two segments changed Senate to House, and we changed RI to CO, and we've have a successful call coming back. That's great. So I think what we could do now is like start to pull this data into Postman and see if we can get it to work there. And I think if we can, then we'll probably have a pretty good grasp on how to get things to work on the Ruby side of things as well. So let's take the URL that we just built, which I guess we could pull it from there. So we don't need the quotes.
Yep. And house.
So in curl, you'll know we had that -h, which is for the header. And in Postman, you'll notice that there's this like headers tab that's here that we can click on that will allow us to pass in a key and a value. So the key is going to be this like X API key, and then the value would be your real API key. So we're just going to do that. All right, so we've kind of hidden our headers so we don't expose the key. And here we go. We've got a successful API call being made.
Can't make this bigger?
Unfortunately, not. I know. Yeah, this looks like it's working.
Yep.
So the next thing we'll have to do is figure out how to like do the same thing on the Ruby side. What do you think of setting up Figaro right now to hide our API keys?
So what's Figaro?
Well, Figaro is like a way to basically take sensitive data that you wouldn't want to like check into a project and have be public, or that might change from machine to machine, and you can create environment variables for that sensitive information. So, for example, the API key that I use might be different than the API key when I'm developing on my local computer, might be different than the API key that gets used in production or something like that. And so it's nice to have like these things set as variables that we can change, and Figaro makes it really easy to do that.
Right, and it also kind of protects against accidentally getting our keys up to GitHub.
Yeah.
Many people we know have gotten a nice bill from Amazon for a couple $1,000s. I think that it's important to like Amazon has usually been kind enough to be like, yeah, not your fault.
Yeah.
But I think that
it is and it isn't, right?
Yeah,
like,
it is.
They're nice. They're generous about it because they realize it was a mistake. But
I think that like maybe the first time they probably like not charge you, but maybe the fifth time they're like, all right,
you're being negligent now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I think it's a gem that we can install.
So we got to get that in the gem file.
So this isn't the only way to set up environment variables, but this is the way we're going to show and use for this purposes of this video. Cool. And then once we install it, we're going to have a command for Figaro install, which you'll notice creates this application.yaml file. And it also appends to the git ignore. So basically what it does is it says, hey, ignore this application.yaml file that we've created, and don't let that get checked in. And that prevents like the keys from accidentally getting pushed up to GitHub or something like that.
So we see here we have some examples of like the format and essentially the key that we're going to be using here and the thing. So what we're going to do is in here, we are going to do publica underscore key, and then our key goes in here in the string, and essentially how we access this from our code, let's just go to our search controller here, and so if I wanted to access that key in here, we would type in env bracket quotation ProPublica key. Okay, so what we've done is that we've gone ahead and put our key in our configuration.yaml file, so we don't ever have to look at it again.
Yeah. So now I think we can start trying to make the real HTTP request. And the question is like, how do we do that? There's like a number of libraries out there that are in Ruby to do that. built into Ruby is there's one called net HTTP,
Mm-hmm.
which is like super common to use. I find myself using Faraday a lot just because I kind of like the syntax.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a strong preference though. Like, what are your thoughts?
I think Faraday has just been the one I've used most recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's also HTTP Party, which some people like.
Yeah.
Cool. I think that whatever tool is fine. I think you like Faraday. I'm most comfortable with Faraday. Let's do that. Like task-based resistance.
Great.
So do we have to go and add that to our gem file?
We should, if it's not there. Yes.
Gem file. Oops. Gem Faraday. Review bundle. Make sure it's installed. Cool. And we've got that installed. So I guess now we have Faraday installed and we're using that to hit our API. And I'm thinking about member search result. I have initialized, it takes a state here.
Yeah.
Clearly, well, maybe not clearly, but I think that, in my mind, we're going to need the state to get it. State's over here. I think the first thing we should probably have save the state so members has access to it.
Sure. Yeah. I'm wondering if what do you think about like just throwing a debugger, like a pry session or something like that, inside of the members method, and we could just start playing around.
Yeah, let's do that.
And we could kind of experiment with this Faraday library.
So. Yeah, I guess I think that my thoughts right now is I'm just thinking way too far ahead. I'm thinking to myself like
I think that's super common, right?
Yeah, because I'm thinking to myself like, well, if I save the state and initialize, does that mean that every single time we hit members we're going to make that API call and like that's going to be slow?
Sure.
But I think that I'm definitely borrowing trouble here and I need to not think about like these efficiency. Like let's just get this thing working.
Yeah.
So let's run it. And it should hit the members method, and we're cool. We're right here.
Sweet. So let's make sure we have access to Faraday, capital FAA.
Yep. Yeah. And it looks like we do.
Cool. Let's see here. So maybe we should pull the documentation for Faraday up. I think that could be helpful. We could kind of start to work through. So like the simple like basic usage, you can basically just call capital F Faraday and then make the get request and pass it the thing. The one thing that's different about what we're doing is that we need to set the header as well.
So let's look for. Can we do that as a block?
Yeah. So I think there's probably a couple ways, right? Because in this scenario that you're looking at right there with the post where it sets the headers, we have access to that in the middle of like what we call the HTTP request we're making. We get past it a block and set it there. What I'm thinking is that we're probably not going to change this on an HTTP request, like request by request basis. Like our key is going to stay the same, regardless of whether we're making a get request or a post request or whatever.
So what you're saying is that like maybe we set the header to the key upon creation of the instantiation of the Faraday object.
Exactly.
And then we just use that to make the calls because that's a little more flexible.
Yeah, I think so. Cool. So then, is there like can you pass a block to new?
Yes, you can.
Cool. Is there an example of that? Maybe up above?
Just search for new. Yeah.
This is a little complex,
but it shows that I think it shows.
Yeah,
that we
you can do it. So let's try it. Let's experiment. So let's do maybe like maybe connect for connection equals capital F Faraday dot new.
Do we want? I think that we pass it we pass it the URL?
Yeah, can we go to the top of the documentation? I think there might be an example right there.
Yep.
There it is. Cool. Oh yeah, and that right below there's an example of a block too.
Oh, cool. Fare.new, and it does symbol URL, and this is going to be https api.propublica.
Yeah, there you go.
Do, and we'll call it Faraday. Okay. Faraday dot headers x dash API dash key equals env pro publica key.
And then, so like, what's interesting here, I think, is that the documentation that we're looking at right now doesn't say anything about setting headers, but we did see further down that we could do that. So that's why we're trying this out. The one thing I do know about this library that's kind of silly to me, but I'm sure there's a good reason, is that if we pass set this block, that default adapter line that you see there, where it says like Faraday.adapter, Faraday default adapter, I know that we have to set that if we pass it a block.
So Faraday dot adapter, Faraday dot default adapter.
And this will only happen if we're passing new a block. If you do just like new, it shouldn't do that. That's weird. What happened?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I see it. Funny.
Mismatch of the
string.
So copy that this time. Cool. Okay, we got a response. We got the object.
Cool.
So we can do that and make sure, yep. Got the connection.
Sweet. So that doesn't actually make the HTTP request, but it does give us the Faraday object. So the next thing we have to do is figure out, like, how do we make the request?
So the request should be the part after the URL, because we fed the URL, right? So I'm just going to go back to Postman. And so we can do connection.get, because that's what it said in the documentation. And we're going to pass it the string of that, the trailing part of that.
Cool.
So that should be Congress. Need a leading. V1 members. House. CO.
Cool.
Current.json. Congress V1 members House CO current.json.
Looks legit.
I recognize the name.
Yeah.
That's hard to read, but we got it.
We got it. Yeah, it looks real. Looks like real data.
So I'm gonna set this equal to response so we can have a handle on it. Cool.
And let's try parsing it. Let's just see if we can parse it. Let's try capital J JSON. Yeah.
Parse response.body.
Awesome.
That is a thing with information.
Cool. Sweet. So what do you say to, like, basically go through the code that we just wrote in here and then paste it in to the members method?
So let's go back to our editor. That's going to be a lot of scroll up, so let's do this. Okay. So we were in members. So we're going to do con equals Faraday.new URL. Why am I doing this? When I can copy and paste. Okay. Give myself one more room. Do Faraday. And then we did a.
Looks like we might be missing an end.
Yes.
Cool. Oh, and then, yeah. The one thing that's kind of interesting here is that I remember when we were looking through Postman. Can you pull up the Postman thing? That what we're getting back, we have like this extra stuff at the top, like the metadata from our API call for like status and copyright and stuff. So we actually have to drill down and to get the members, which will be inside of results.
So yeah, so
maybe let's just play around with it maybe in here in our debugger since we've got it there and see if we can call
let's do, so it's response is the whole thing. Response, let's do it, let's just parse it.
Cool. One thing I like to do is I like to
something different, I think.
Cool.
Data.
Sure.
Okay, so I see that results appears to be this array.
Yeah.
So
can we also work with symbols instead of strings? So like inside the body, we can do pass it a second parameter inside the parse method. We could do symbolize names. Yeah.
Symbolize names. True.
Cool.
Okay, so let's check that again. That looks good. So results appears to be this array.
Yeah.
So data results.
Sweet.
Looks like that array of representatives.
Cool. Sweet. So let's maybe we go into the members method and start working with
so
that a bit.
what we did, so we did the parse, and so we want to throw in the
symbolize names.
Do you want to break this out like?
Yeah, maybe? It might be nice. It's starting to get a little long.
Oh yeah, a little wide there. Okay, so response.
Or data, I think is what we did before.
Yeah. Data equals JSON.parse response.body, comma, symbolize names. True. And now the members itself is going to be the data results. Results plural?
Yep. I think so.
Yes. So that should be the way we want.
Cool.
So let's save that. We'll take away the binary pry. Well, that's weird. Well, let's see what happens. Got a failure. Yeah. So we're getting the error message that our CSS isn't there, which is fair because we haven't really done CSS yet.
And but the one thing that we got past the initial error, which was that the count of the representatives would come back. So we got past that piece, which is cool. So maybe, I mean, we're probably going to want to refactor this.
Yeah, that's a lot happening in here.
But yeah, you know, maybe should we do that? What do you want to refactor now, or should we wait till our test is green before we start to refactor?
I think we should wait till our test is green so
Cool.
we know that like we're not screwing around.
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
not
yeah.
really breaking anything else.
Yeah, that's fair. Cool, awesome. So let's maybe we go back to the view and take a look at what's happening there. I got to refresh my memory.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the layouts. No. The welcome or the search?
Search. Yeah.
Search.
Oh, right. Cool. So we've gotten past this. This piece is working. But now we got to create like some representative classes.
What happens if we just see what happens when we load this?
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's just
take
a look.
I always like doing that.
Okay. Colorado. 7 results. Cool. Alaska.
Oh, you know what? I don't think we ever changed the state to be
Yeah.
dynamic. Maybe we should go do that really quick. That's like a fairly easy change.
So, CO. State.
Cool.
I know California's got to have a bunch. 7 results. That doesn't seem right. Let's just restart the server just to.
Yeah, I didn't see the call get made to that server. So I wonder if it's running somewhere else. Maybe.
There we go.
Okay.
But also, this is not happening. Okay, so we have this, and we thought it would be really fun for you to watch us type in HTML. So we'll do this.
Awesome. So if you look at what we threw in here, this is kind of coming back to this idea of like dream-driven development, where you'll notice that we're calling search.members.each2member, and then we're calling member.name, role, party, and district. This doesn't necessarily match. This does not match the code that we have happening on the back end from like when we parse. So we make the HTTP request using Faraday. We get back some stuff. We parse it, and currently the data that we're getting back is an array of hashes. And I personally don't believe it's a good idea to let like the stuff that's happening on the back end impact the code that we're writing on the front end too much. I would rather write the code we wish existed and then figure out how to make that happen a little bit like deeper into the code base. So here we're saying member.name, role, party, district because I think it's going to make our code more maintainable over the long haul. For example, like if we were accessing the data in a hash, it could be like over time that maybe the source of that data changes and therefore the structure of the hash changes or something like that, and now our views become really vulnerable. Whereas if we take this approach, we can just kind of figure out how to parse the data to make it do what we want it to do, and it makes our code more maintainable.
Cool. So I guess I guess my first step is like I'm thinking to myself, well, we're returning the data, the array of hashes here, and like this is probably we would want to iterate through this.
Yeah.
And make member objects.
Potentially, yeah. So what I would do is like I would just run the test and see what the error tells us right now, because we should totally, if everything is going according to plan, we should see like undefined method like name or something like that for hash.
Undefined method name for hash.
Great. So like this tells me, okay, we're headed in the right direction. This is what we were expecting. So that also tells me that we probably need to improve our unit test for our member search result.
We did a lot over here.
Yep.
And we did not do much over here.
Yeah.
Which, like, the only thing that does not feel great about it.
Yeah, so we're only checking for a count of 7, which isn't great. Maybe, so kind of going off of what you were saying, Mike, you just said that, like, you want to have, like, these, like, member objects or something like that in there. What do you think of adding a test that checks to make sure, like, the first first like, thing in this array is a member object?
Yeah, so something, we make a different it block.
We could. I mean, otherwise, like,
does it belong in here as well?
Yeah, I mean, this says it returns members with a valid state, right?
So let's do an expect member search result dot members dot first dot to be a member.
Yeah.
Member's starting to have no meaning for me whatsoever anymore.
Yeah. Maybe we've named things bad, poorly.
I mean,
but yeah, I mean, well, let's just go with it.
This whole thing's about members, so like I think it's pretty,
Yeah.
it's pretty natural that everything's going to be a member or member adjacent.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So we've got this member object that doesn't exist. And it looks like it's yeah. All right, so that tells me. Well, let's first write the code that we wish existed over in our member search results. So what we want to do is we want to return an array of member objects. What we currently have is an array of these hashes.
So I would want, and I do this knowing that I really want to pull this out somewhere else.
Totally, yeah.
This
but
hurts right now.
It does. It's getting gross, but like that. It's hard to know how to refactor until we have it working.
So I'm feeling like a map.
Love it. Yeah, I think that's kind of what I was feeling.
Hash?
What do you think of? Because like
attributes.
Maybe like. Yeah, attributes could be good. Data could be good. Raw data.
Data because we're already using data here.
Raw member could be like kind of like hey, this is like the member data, but it's not. It hasn't been wrapped in an object yet. I don't know.
So let's say raw member is fine, and then member.new raw member.
Cool.
And because it's mapped, that creates a thing on the member object and returns that.
Sweet. I think that's good. I like the way that I like where this is going because this is gonna make it easy to use. This will also kind of help us if this is how we want to use it, right? This will also kind of help us decide how we're going to write our unit test at the member for the member class as well.
Yeah. So I guess I think my next instinct is like let's write a test for our member.
Yeah.
Things. Let's see here under so many files. Spec models. New file. Member spec.rb. Require Rails helper. I guess
we could go simple again, just make sure it exists. After which we would probably want to go check like for specific attributes and all that, but
the hash, what do we want to pass to it?
maybe we just say like attributes for now, and we can go create a hash called attributes, or an attributes that's a hash.
Nope, not member search result, but member to be a member, and then
we could just set it to be an empty hash for the time being, and then kind of come back and clean it up in just a minute here. But this should be enough to kind of like get things wired together.
Yep, initialize constant member. So that makes me go back up here to models, file. Okay, this should complain about the number of things I'm passing to it. Yep. Oops.
Cool. Yep. So things are wired together, and we just don't have these methods defined.
So I think the next thing I want to write would be that it has attributes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
through the magic of editing, we've written the test for the attributes, because I'm sure you all want to see me type more. But we have this attributes hash, which has the name, party, role, district, and we are creating it with those attributes and expecting that the name is Alice, the party is D, the role is representative, the district is 1.
I think we should also like add that the structure of those attributes mirrors what we're getting back from the API. So it's not, we didn't just like decide that that's what they were going to be called.
Here we have the name, the role, the party, role, name, party, district, and district at the bottom.
Yeah.
And
so if the names of the keys that we use match this exactly.
And the data types of the values match exactly as well.
Perfect.
And I also want to note that we did not include all of it because we don't care. Well, we do care, but we're not using any of it. So why are we going to add things in there? We're not currently using.
Exactly right, because that would lead to potentially like extra maintenance and stuff like that if for something we're not using.
Cool. So let us at this part run the test. And undefined method name for member.
Cool.
So we go here and of course there's undefined method name.
Cool.
For member. So let's just kind of like do this as a batch. Name equals attributes, and we did convert them to symbols, right?
We did. Yep.
Name. Role.
Yeah.
District. And party.
Partay.
Cool. Let's run the test. Yep.
Cool. So the methods are there, they're defined.
It's just complain about CSS.
Yeah. Cool. So like I think that's probably what we do next. Oh right, because in the test we said we wanted it to be named representative, but in here we've called it member. What do you think, now that we're using member for everything, maybe we update our test in this case?
Yeah. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. I think we've like changed our mind about some stuff, and I'm okay with that. Yeah.
So what? Visitor search. Yeah. There's never a time we know less about the problem than at the start.
Yeah.
Let's change that to member. Sounds good. Let's run the test and see what happens.
Awesome. Ship it.
Yeah. Well, let's actually see if it works. Let's make sure it works. Oops. Like I trust the test, but I do want to see what I made. Let's just do a localhost 3000. Colorado. Cool. Not the prettiest thing in the world, but we have the information on. We have the 7 results. I know that these are the names of our representatives. Let's check Massachusetts. Joe Kennedy is the representative of the 4th.
Seems legit.
Cap1 on the 7th. Yep, that looks correct.
Cool. Should we format it a little bit just to make it a little easier to read? I don't think it'll take too long.
Yeah, let's where are we? Index.
So we could add like a
H1
H2 or H1, yeah, whatever.
I was gonna go big with the with the H1 too big. Also H2.
And then maybe we could do like a maybe like a paragraph? Or no, those are ULs.
Maybe like just a label.
Yeah, that's good.
So it's just
Mm-hmm.
people can like know what the information is.
Sure.
Twilight Count talking about?
And horizontal rule.
Oh,
We haven't seen those in a while.
that's HR, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Take me back to my GeoCities days.
Hey, check it
Is
out.
that not?
Yeah, that's weird. I wonder.
It's probably CSS overriding it.
Yeah, I have. There's a. I think there's a reset CSS thing in here. Maybe that is doing that. I don't know.
Yeah.
Strong. Try strong. It's not the important part of this.
No, they don't need to see us fiddling with ours. Huh?
All right,
That's fine.
Well, that's really weird. Cool. We've got. Yeah. So it seems like it's working.
Mm-hmm. But there are parts of it that still hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you? Where are you?
It's our.
Member search.
Yeah. This members method is pretty gnarly. Yeah.
Start. Close this here. Yeah, there's a lot happening here.
Yeah, so when we talk about like, I feel like this is like when we use this term like red green refactor, this like phrase or whatever, and I think this is really what it means, right? Like we've started on the like
whole lot of red.
Yeah, whole lot of red. We had but we also started with like the user's behavior that we were trying to satisfy. We've got the user's behavior like set. We're letting that behavior drive our development, and now we've ended up with this like kind of gross members method, but this is where the refactor part of this like process comes in.
It works. That's the important
Yeah,
thing,
it works, right? Like if our client was breathing down our neck and we had to ship it right now, we could ship it and like it would work, but it would probably not be the most maintainable. I think an easy refactor is when one of the things that I'll look for is like the easiest things to change is like local variables a lot of times can be broken out and become just like methods. So we could like for like line 8, instead of having it be a local variable there, that's like reusable code, I think, and we could DEF-CON, yeah. And that's cool because like we could then potentially reuse
to do other searches.
Yeah. As I'm looking at this, it's like there's a lot of kind of like specific like knowledge that's specific to this. So like this thing is like responsible for returning like search results, but it knows a lot. It knows like about the ProPublica API. It knows like how to parse that data. It knows how to build member objects. I'm wondering if we should actually extract all of this like API call information out to a separate class that would be responsible.
What kind of class would this be?
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting, right? Because like this is typically in the Rails world, we'll typically call something like that like a service. And it'll be responsible for like going out and making API calls.
Your phrasing seems to imply that this would not be a service in this case.
Am
I reading you wrong?
No, I'm just saying that like that's typically what we would call it in like the Rails community. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, not it might be referred to something different in different programming communities. That's kind of what I was phrasing it that way. Yeah. But yeah, I think this is totally a service. I would say like everything from like making the API call to parsing the data, that logic could live somewhere else.
Okay.
And maybe what we do is we could start to write the code that we wish existed.
Yeah. So, what are we expecting the service to return to us in this case? In this members method that we're talking about, and so if we're thinking that the API. The service is going to, it feels that if it's just going to be the API stuff, it should return to us a array of hashes.
Yeah, or it could return. So one of the things that I think is interesting is on right on the line where we have JSON.parse.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that the service could return that thing.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe, so let's do this. Do we call it ProPublica service?
No. So like, hold on. Let's go back to how it was. I want to keep the code that's working.
Uh-huh.
I want to keep it there,
So let's
and we'll write our new code up above.
So let's do def members.
I would even put it in the same method.
Really?
Yeah. Because with Ruby, the last lines of code to execute are the ones that'll like take precedence.
So let's put some good amount of white space.
Love it. Yeah. See, that
was my inclination to
Yeah.
make a new method so I could like mentally
totally. Yeah. I like this.
the two.
Cool. So what I'm imagining then is like we could call out to, yeah, I like that. Data equals, and instead of doing the parsing here, I'm thinking we let the parsing happen at the service layer. Yeah. And
so that means that all we have is data.map.
Or data equals
ProPublica service.
Sure. Yeah. Let's keep it simple. Yeah, I like that.
And so here, I guess, if we're
yeah, we can dream drive this, right?
Are
like
we going to? Do we want to instantiate this, or use kind of like a class method, or we just send it the thing and it returns us the thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. The advantage. Okay, so let's talk about the advantages of going with like a class method. With a like initializing, creating an instance, and then tacking on the methods. I think the advantage is that we could, if in the future we decided we wanted to write additional methods on this like API call, right? Because remember we had some metadata in there with like the copyright and like all that. And who knows, maybe the ProPublica API gets more robust and they add like pagination or something like that. If we're working on an instance level, it becomes easier to make one API call and then like use that data over and over and over again versus like making multiple API calls. If we go to the class layer, it becomes, I think, a little bit trickier to make the code reusable.
Okay.
So I'm inclined to say, let's initialize the ProPublica service with the state, maybe?
Do we want to?
Do we want to?
I mean, send the state upon initialization.
That's a good question. I would say for now, let's say yes. Okay. I don't think there's a right answer.
Yeah. Because I'm in that mode where like, well, what if like having looked over the documentation, there's other things we do. Like, what if we want a list of all of the members of Congress, right? Then we're not going to send in state or, like. Yeah.
In which case, like maybe ProPublica service is too general a term for the class. And at that point, maybe we're we could get more complex with this. I think for like the sake of keeping this simple, like I think there's like a really good use case for like inheritance. Like maybe we have like a ProPublica like parent class, and then we have like other subclasses.
A House, a Senate.
Yeah, exactly. But for now, let's just do like the simplest thing possible, and we'll just assume that like this isn't going to change.
Oh no, it's going to be state.
Yeah.
And then that is going to be data.map do.
Yeah.
Raw number.
Actually, it would be the same thing as down below, because we're going to have to grab the results out of there, I think, too.
Oh, that's right.
So it would actually be the exact same code that's at the bottom of that. So we could probably just leave it. Yeah. Cool. Let's run it and see it blow up.
Will it blow up?
It should.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we've added this new class.
Service,
yeah.
Right. Nope. Need to save it. Yep. No ProPublica service.
Great. So maybe we start TDDing at the unit level this ProPublica service.
Yeah.
Seem good?
Yeah. Cool. So do we create a separate services folder for the thing?
I like to. Yeah, I think Yeah, inside, like, have a directory called services in our spec directory,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll do this.
ProPublica
Yeah.
service spec.
Yeah.
And then okay. Oops. Acquire. Actually, let's do this. And what was that? Context?
Describe. Yeah,
yeah.
describe, and then we could just do ProPublica service.
Exists.
Sure. Yeah. I don't need
Oops.
a block. Yeah.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yep.
Great.
And so over here, oh, we need a new folder.
Yep.
Yeah. Services.
And I like to think of like services as being like, it kind of ends up becoming a little bit of a junk drawer sometimes, but I like to think of its purpose as being things that are a little bit more complex. That's maybe includes like multiple steps, or like maybe we're reaching into multiple models or whatever. Like you could use services for like a lot of different things, but in this case, like this is not a controller really. This isn't a model. It's not modeling data from some other location. It's like responsible for going out and making a call. So I think it makes sense to put it in a service.
Yep.
Cool. So
let us on this side pull up the member social RB, and we can kind of take a look at this and start moving, in my mind, moving things over.
Can we go back? I'm trying to remember what we wrote here. We did data. Oh, okay. So now that I'm looking at the code that we wrote here, the very top line of members where we say data equals ProPublica service.new, I'm actually wondering if maybe we should have a method that we call on this. So instead of calling it direct, like having an initialized return.
So we do a ProPublica service equals ProPublica service.new state, and data equals ProPublica service dot.
Yeah, what's a good method name? I mean, maybe we just call it members. Maybe it's just members, right? Because like, it might. I kind of like it when my classes have similar names, if not the same names. It's kind of like this, like, I don't know.
I was thinking more like members by state.
Sure. Yeah, we could do that. Yep.
So then we need a member by state here.
Yeah, but we should probably write a test for it.
All right. So member search was where are we? ProPublica service spec. Okay.
There you go. Cool.
It gets members by state.
Sure.
Okay. Then we do I guess what do we test for? We can do the 7.
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
7, and then we can maybe see. Yeah, I like that. We can do the 7.
Oops. ProPublica service dot members by state to equal count. It's equal 7.
Cool. And then maybe, what do you think about checking the structure of the data that we get back? So like I'm imagining, like maybe we check to see that there's 7, and then maybe we check the first one to make sure that it has the keys that we're dependent on.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm thinking that is that, like, what happens if they change their API and the keys change or something like that? Our code would break, and I'd want to know about that.
Mm-hmm. So let's hear expect ProPublica service dot members by state.
Dot first, maybe we could assign that to maybe like a local variable like member.
Mm-hmm.
Because we'll probably want to check against it multiple times.
Yes.
So we do like member equals.
Spec member.
And then we could do like square bracket, like check for the key of. Or no, we could do member to have dot to have key underscore key, and then
symbol.
Yeah.
Name.
Yeah.
District. Role. Party.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are the important 4.
Cool.
Cool. Okay.
Cool.
So we get the
And now I think what you were saying.
pull over.
Yeah, we could just start copying and pasting some stuff. We could take that whole method. Yeah, con. I like that. Boom.
And we're missing it.
And we could leave it on the right side too in the other class just to like prevent it from erroring out.
Okay, so the message. So we go here. I guess essentially we could do this.
Yep.
So we can get rid of the data.
Cool. Let's run our tests and see what happens. It may pass. But maybe not. We have one failure. What's our failure?
Oh.
Oh, you know why?
Results.
Yes. So that's interesting. Yeah, good. That's good. That's a good failure. We made a mistake in our test.
Member dot.
Oh. Yes. This is actually a good. Now we're kind of like to an interesting point because like. I would expect the members by state method to parse down into the members, like the results for me.
Okay.
Or no? What do you think?
I think that we want to have the option.
Yeah, that's probably true. To get access to like that metadata.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Like I think that let's just give us the metadata, and in the controller is where we decide.
Cool.
Like I don't feel that decision should be made in the service.
Yep, I agree.
Service should be like
it'll be more reusable this
stuff.
way. Yep, yeah, that's more reusable. Cool, I like it.
Did I not?
Let's see, members by state. Oh, we would want to do the count.
Oh yeah.
All right, sweet.
So
now we can start deleting some code from our member class, or was it this one? Yeah.
So
Hopefully. So let's try commenting out everything from there down to the rest of the method, and then that con method as well. Let's see if we can comment it out, still stay green. Great. So now we can delete it.
A little bit.
And now this feels a lot more single responsibility, where it's like
it's nice. This is just real small.
And then, what do you think about splitting that ProPublica service out into its own method inside the member search result? Because that could be reusable potentially in the future. And maybe we could just call it service.
No.
It won't let you.
It's like, no, you're not going to do that. Publica service dot new state.
And then we would change the. Oh, well, we could just down here on the next line down, instead of saying ProPublica service, we could just say service. Yeah. Because now what we could do is, like, let's say we wanted to get access to what was something else that was coming over from that service. Is it like copyright date or something like that?
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of a silly example, but we could, in theory, like in this class, define a copyright method, and then it could call service square bracket copyright or something like that. So it makes the code a little bit more reusable. Cool. What are you thinking?
It always kind of like, this is just like a personal thing. Like, I want to put this here and not have that local variable assignment. But I'm like, that doesn't really bias anything.
The data?
Yeah.
Where would you put it?
Not use a data local variable.
Oh,
here.
so you're saying, like, just say service.members by state square bracket results. It gets a little wide.
Yeah, it's a little wide.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fine. I'm okay with it.
Service, that looks fine. Like, this is what it is. This one here, just simplifies it out.
What do you think about maybe, like, I feel like this idea of sending a GET request that's going to return JSON and then parsing it, we're going to have, like, really similar lines probably all over our code base. Yeah, so maybe we could do, like, a GET JSON or something like that. So, like, yeah, let's try to write the code that in the members by state method that we want to exist. We'll kind of dream drive this and see if we. So members by state in the ProPublica service.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the whole all words mean nothing.
I know.
Anymore.
Yeah, it's.
So in here.
So kind of like what we did before, where we'll like add it like above the code that works.
So kind of like get JSON.
Yeah. And then we pass it like the URL. So like the URL that's done there. And then we could do like, oh, maybe that's it. Yeah, that would be cool, right? Because then we could have like this get JSON method defined throughout the app.
So let's do a.
And that would take like a URL.
Yep. And we could do a.
I think we could just copy and paste what's up. And then replace the hard-coded URL with URL. And like this, there's not a big advantage to doing this right now, but I could see, I could see like a scenario where like we're doing this all over, and maybe we could split it out into like a module or something in the future.
Yeah, this will be like super reusable. And this gets like, yeah, like this. I think this becomes a lot clearer, members by state, and like if we could possibly have something like deaf senators by state, and then it's just this, but
Totally.
that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? And then it's like that is just
it's really easy to add new stuff. Yeah.
Cool. Are we done? Is this a thing that works?
It works, but it's we're making real HTTP requests from our. So okay, we'll erase that. So I think we're in a good state. Let's just run our test suite really fast just to make sure we didn't break things. All right, so we're still green. I think it's refactored pretty well. I feel good enough about this. How do you feel? Feel like it's good enough?
It's like I don't really think I think that any changes that we would make this at this point would be to make things easier for our future selves to add things on. I think that as a thing, an atomic kind of product, that this all works.
Cool. I'm not crazy. Well, let me ask you. I'm asking like the wrong question. How do you feel about like the test suite making real API calls? Because right now, like when we run our test suite, we're making like several API calls, and I don't know.
I think that is coming up with a way to kind of stub that out.
Yeah.